This is an overview video of my Sony PS-LX550. This is a turntable that was released in about 1983, I believe, last time I looked this up. And basically it's a high-end, or at least high-end back in the early 80s. It's a linear turntable because if you look at it, that is the tone arm. It's very, very short. And basically you have, it rides along this track here, and there's specific benefits for that. But basically, this was my father's turntable. He passed away a few years ago, and I inherited a lot of his equipment, and this was one of them. It needed very little work. This was basically one of the turntables when I was a kid. I was probably 83 years, 10, 11 years old. So I would play records on here, and basically had to be very careful because this was part of his original Sony stack. That's how I attained it. I had to do very little to really get it to work well. I just had to get another 45 adapter. This is mine. Not part of this set. I don't even think this came with one, because the second version of this had a 45 adapter hole right here where you'd put it, and I couldn't locate it when I was going through my dad's stuff, so it doesn't even seem like it existed. If it did exist, I didn't know about it. But basically the way I have it hooked up is I have it plugged into my system, which I did a video here of this whole system with his speakers. I have it hooked up to the Sony preamp, which is a new edition, but instead of using the internal preamp, and I don't want to go make this video specifically about the preamp, that will be another video, I go through this amplifier here. Well, this is a preamp. This is a preamp, Duke T13, I believe. If that's not right, I'll put it up on the screen. But basically, I like it because it's got VU meters, and it's an external phono preamp, and I have that feeding just basically into the auxiliary. Well, here it's video port 4. It's really an aux port, but I could basically put it into right into the phono, but I don't, because this preamp basically disables the woofer, and I don't want that. I want to be able to use the subwoofer with this. I believe that they do that in order to prevent any bouncing of the stylus and skipping, etc., so forth. And believe me, that 12-inch subwoofer, Klipsch subwoofer, would definitely make it bounce if I turned it up all the way. If I was playing something like, a Daft Punk or any kind of EDM, for example. Let's go through the basic functions of this. It is not a quartz lock model. There are quartz locks models of this system. This is not. It's belt driven. I put a new belt in it. Well, I'll go through all the stuff that I did to it. Had to do very little adjustment to get it actually in time. It was a little slow, so there's actually screws on the bottom. You basically wedge it up there and you put your hand underneath with a little screwdriver, and you can adjust it. And the reason why you'd want something like this is because the tone arm is very short and it doesn't swing. Normally a tone arm would be back here and it would pivot across the stylus, and there's ways to mitigate the angle of the tone arm. You don't want the stylus to basically be canted on the tracks as little as possible. You want to keep it to a minimum. The way records are normally cut, they're cut with something similar to this, where the actual cutter head rides along a track like this, and that's how they're basically produced. And you want to reproduce that as much as possible. If there's a tone on here, no matter how much you mitigate it, it's always like 1 or 2 degrees off, and that arguably could produce some distortion. I personally don't hear it. I know people do. I guess I don't have audiophile ears, but I have the system, and I basically hooked it up. I put some fresh lubrication on the track here. It moved just fine before, but basically some of the fixes I did was like I said, I corrected the timing after I replaced the belt. The belt was still good, but kind of preventive maintenance. I just replaced it. It only cost a couple dollars. Bought it on eBay. Replaced the stylus with a replacement. That's a T4P head, and basically underneath here I put a cork pad. And let me show a little demonstration of how it stops. I just hit the stop button on here, and we'll go through those functions a little bit more. Okay, the way this works is there's a light back here, and there's photo sensors under the bladder. If I lift this up, you'll see. If I can take it off. Oh, it's really tight on that spindle. There it goes. You can see under here, there's actually photo sensors down here. Can you see it? Kind of lines up. Well, anyway, what the photo sensors are doing, it's looking for this light. If it doesn't see the light at all as this is spinning, it assumes that there's a full-size LP on this player. By the way, here's access to the motor. It is not a direct drive. It is belt drive, and it's pretty easy to replace. You basically put it on the spindle here and drop it on, and then just pull the belt onto the motor spindle. And then if it does see the light, for example, right here, what it'll assume is there is a 45 on here, and that controls how far the stylus will move over when you hit the start button. Now, what I did was I've got this cork mat, and I cut holes to mirror what the rubber mat has. And I still have the rubber mat, so I could always put it on, put it back, but you have to align it just right. And then, as you can see it's blocked, and I'll move it over, and it opens up the hole, and it opens up the hole here, so that the photo sensor can see the light. If it sees no light in both of these sensors as it's spinning, then it assumes there's a full-size LP. If it sees the light but sees blocked, then it assumes there's a 45. And if it sees light on everything, for example, I'll hit the start button, it'll attempt, and it'll go back because it won't even try, because it'll say, oh, there's no record here. Here's a gotcha for that. If you have a transparent or semi-transparent or transparent enough record, the sensors won't work, and you'll hit the stop and start, and it'll say, you don't have stop start button. You won't, it'll say, there's no record internally. It'll go over, and it'll go right back as I just showed you. I'll try it again. Nope, I don't see a record. I'm not starting, is what he's going to do. Okay, so I put a record on there, for example. Now the nice thing is, well, at least with the old, not the cork one, but with the original one, you can see there's like a little smooth area right on the end of the platter. If for some reason there was an error or it misdetected it, it would come over, drop the needle, and right above where the starting track is, or right before the first track, it would just land right in the metal part and hopefully not damage the stylus, or not damage it too much, or mitigate the damage. So it's a little dusty, this one. I had to use classical music because I don't want to get a copyright strike. If I just hit this now, and I will show you this, it will start up the record, but I don't want it to start, right, and then move over and start playing, because I want to use a brush. So if I hit this, and it's going to start moving it, and I manually move this over by hitting the arm trans. Why would you want a linear turntable? Well, it eliminates a lot of issues. You add complexity, but you eliminate a lot of issues. You have the low distortion because of the error that the tone arm will have based on the angle. Yeah, I'm sure there's a term for that, but basically it's 1 or 2% angle difference between the front of the record and the back of the record. There's ways to aligning this, and that might be a whole nother video where you would need to align the head, especially 1/4-inch head, with a record when you change the head. You don't have that with this system. It is consistent all the way across the record because it's riding on a track. The angle does not change. It's always at a 90-degree angle. The second issue is you have no skate or anti-skate issues, where what that is if you had a regular tone arm and you put the stylus on the record, and usually the trick is you use a record without any grooves like a Laserdisc, which is totally smooth. Because that's an optical disc, you will tend to see the stylus try to skate either in or skate out. For example, and you adjust that for the higher end turntables. There's an adjustment so you could turn up or turn down the amount of force pushing in on the record. It's going to want to try to pull the stylus in and the tone arm in when it's playing the record. You want to counteract that by adjusting or putting a little tension on the tone arm so it's perfectly balanced. Otherwise, it's going to be using that little tiny stylus. It's sitting in the track and trying to keep it from skating basically out or in, and you don't want to do that. You want almost very little force left or right on that stylus, because you want that stylus to be basically dedicated to playing the information in the grooves of the record. This tone arm, the mass of this tone arm, is very, very light. It is, I think I measured this, it's like 2 grams perfectly, if I remember correctly. And it was hard getting that measurement. I could just barely get the scale on here to measure it, but it was very light. And again, just to reiterate, you have a little distortion because you don't have any arc errors or alignment errors with your stylus. You don't have to align it when you put a new stylus on here. Arguably, these are very easy to change to T4P heads, because you just pull this screw out and whoop, the whole thing just pops in. You pop a new one in, put the screw back in, just lock it in, and you don't have to fiddle with wires or anything like that. You don't have to fiddle with alignment issues, because you're not really supposed to with these type of stylus heads, but at the same time you don't have to worry about it because it's a linear turntable and you don't have any kind of head issues with this type of tone arm, a linear turntable. And you don't have it's a low mass arm, and not only, and see how it can go left and right. I'm just pushing it, and that's how it detects. When it detects that the head moves over, when it's actually working, the whole head will the whole arm will move over. Put on some classical music, specifically Mozart. I believe this is Mozart violin concertos, because I don't want to get a copyright strike. And I'll show you how this works on automatic, and I'll show you how to do it on a manual mode. So on automatic, all you do is drop the record on, you hit stop start, it'll start up automatically. I'll drop the cover. That's what it looks like with the cover on. It has a little scale on top. It's just a sticker that shows, a little dusty, but it shows where the tone arm is located on the record. So the way you stop this, you hit I'll show you the buttons down here. You have stop start. You can manually move the tone arm left and right. You can manually lift the tone arm up and down, and then you have a repeat, and you could also change the speed of the session or the record if it's not detecting it correctly. Like if you have a 45 sized record that plays at 33, or vice versa, you have a full size record that plays at 45, well, you can change that. it automatically default for a full-size LP to be 33 and a 45 to be 45 RPM or smaller. Repeat would just basically just when it gets to the end, just puts the tone arm back to the beginning and plays it again and again. Okay, so let me stop. I hit the stop start button, and it brings it out, stops the motor, and then brings this out. Which, by the way, will happen if it goes all the way to the end and goes to the lead out track and the run out track. You'll stop it and it'll bring it all the way to the end. Let's say you had one of those records that were transparent, right, or a weird size, and it's confusing the heck out of the photo sensors, right? Well, you could still play it manually, right? One way to do it is you could just move it in, drop the needle, and then you can just hit start. And it'll play it. For example, normally you could want to go to the second track, you would lift up the needle, or you would lift it up with the left arm, move it over, and then drop the needle. Well, you could do that here, except you have to use the buttons. Picks it up by holding the button down. See, I'm holding this button down, and if you'll notice, it moves up, moves down tone arm over, left and right, and I just hit the arm lifter button and it drops it. And then there's a little light here for repeat. I don't know if you can see it with the glare. Let me block the light. You can see. Right, and then I turn that off. There you go. So there you go. It's a quick overview of my Sony PS-LX550 that I inherited from my father. Did some minor refurbishing, and again, just really just did a cleanup. Put new lubrication on the rail back here. Put a new stylus cartridge on. Put in a cork mat, platter mat, and then a new belt. And then really just at the last thing I did was just check the speed, make sure the speed was good. Other than that, as you can hear, she plays wonderfully. Thank you.